All right, let's go ahead and begin. If you haven't signed in, please let me know though, so I can make sure you all get credit. Okay. Responsive web design. Tell me what you've learned about it so far this week without looking at the board. Anyone? Yeah. Yes. Absolutely. And why is that important? Right. Right. So the screen size up there is obviously different than my iPhone or my tablet. One of the interesting things about iPhones, and I haven't had an Android in a long time, but maybe you could tell me if the Android devices do the same thing. But an iPhone will actually scale the web page down to size on the phone, so it maintains its look and feel. The problem is that you have to have really good eyesight to read at that point, right? So you're always squishing, popping it back and forth, trying to read it. Um, so there's three components that we need to remember for responsive web design. Number one, that your images and your media are all flexible. This means that you're not using attributes, HTML attributes such as width or height. You're going to use a style class instead, and use percentages on those. Uh, the other part is your grid layout. It needs to be fluid, flexible. Means that all the web page width properties need to be using some type of percentage or EM field. Um, so you can use EM, percentage, or rem, like what we just discussed last week. And the last one, the third key component of flexible design of your websites involves the media queries. And we've touched on them a little bit, but this week we're actually going to dig into a little bit deeper. And if you have Chrome open on your browser, Chrome actually includes some default sizes, so you can actually size things down to standard widths, which is very useful when you're doing development for making sure your site will load on an iPhone or a tablet or whatnot. Okay, so I have here some sample HTML, and you notice that the first thing at the top says the meta name is the viewport, content is width equals device width, and the initial scale. That initial scale has to do with the percentage that it scales for the device. Okay. Um, the other thing you'll notice here on this page is that the image tags are using what types of attributes? What do you think? Yeah, they're using a width and a height, but they also have a class attached to them called post photo and post photo full. Here's the deal. If you're going to use a flexible design, you cannot have the width and the height tags because it will hijack your style. So you need to make sure that when you're doing these that you remove the width and the height tags attributes on the image HTML tag. You want to strictly use what's defined in the class, the CSS class. Okay. Flexible image scales, they scale proportionally to fit the element that contains them. So for example, the body or a div or whatever. They cannot grow larger than their natural dimensions. So for example, if you have a div with a style class called page, and that page has padding associated with it in the style, the image will only grow out to the dimensions of the padding within the size limitation of the page. If you have no padding attribute set, padding style class attribute set, then it'll grow out to the full length. So if I have an image that's 320 pixels, when I apply 100%, it will max out to the natural size of the image. Meaning if the image itself is 300 pixels, 320 pixels, when I apply max, it will go out to 320 pixels and no greater, right? Um, there are some ways you can get around this, but you really don't want to. You want it to max out at the size of the image itself, not to go beyond. Because if you go beyond, you're going to get into fuzzy kind of pixelization. The image loses its quality. So here you see an example of post photo, comma, post photo full, and both of them are using the max width. This is the one. This is the CSS attribute you want to use, max dash width. Oh, you're fine. You're fine. Um, you're going to need to sign in. Let's see where are we at right now. We'll come back to this. Again, is everyone signed in? Winnie, if you could go ahead and sign in real quick there. The code, if you need to use it, is X90MNP. Yeah, that's fine. Are we missing anyone today? Is everyone here? Okay. Sometimes it doesn't work because of that light glare on the screen. Okay. Okay. Yeah, I think it's the glare from the projector. But if you could just take the code and okay, so let's skip down here. Where were we at? All right. So post photo, comma, post photo full max width. Um, the image itself using max width will expand out to the maximum allowed of either the image width itself or the parent it resides in. So if I only have an image that is 20 pixels wide, when I apply max width, it will not go out all the way to the size of the page. It will go out to either the width of the image, the number of pixels, or if the image is larger than the page, it will scale to the size of the page. Does that make sense? Okay. Again, you can get around this if you really want to. You can use, instead of max width, you can just use width, but we don't recommend that because it can cause issues. SVG and icon fonts, they scale with no issues, obviously, because SVG it's mathematical scalable vector lines, and it just paints the screen for it. Max width also works on video and on the embed and the object tags. And max width is um, the recommended way you want to do this. Okay. Any questions so far? Anybody? Okay. So let's consider the following CSS. What do we see as an issue with this CSS? Concerning flexible design. No height? That may affect but that's not really what we're looking for. What is the real issue here concerning flexible design with this little snippet of CSS? Exactly. And do you know why? Exactly. It's set to a specified pixel dimension. So we're saying that the page width is 960 pixels, which, by the way, is standard size for a web page. But then we say that the main and the sidebar are also have static widths. Okay. Now let's do a little comparison between the old and the new. Now we have a page with 960 pixels. Notice that it says max width. Do you see that? So that means what for the page? The max width, when I say 960 pixels. It will expand up to 960 pixels, right? And it'll stop. But then our main, notice I've got it commented out. The desired width is width divided by the containing block. And so here that amount is 62.5%. And then our sidebar is, again, the width, which is 300 pixels, divided by 960, which is the total size of the page. And that gives us the 31.25%, right? So what that means is everything you do on this page, you could scale it up or down. It will size appropriately based on whatever device you're in, right? Again, the max width, this is the key here at the top. Obviously, the percentages are important, but if you're comparing the old width, which is 960, with now the new CSS is max dash width. Okay. All right. So I took a screenshot here to kind of give some demonstration. This is a screenshot right out of your textbook. They're showing a regular page at the top at the maximum width, and as they scale it, everything shrinks down appropriately using the percentages. Okay, so the formula you want to use, again, for determining your percentages is you want to say first the desired width in pixels. So if I'm working with a 960 pixel size page and I want this element over here to be only 200 pixels, I'm going to say my desired width is 200 pixels divided by the containing block, which in this instance, the containing block is the entire page. Containing block is 960, and that gives me my percentage value. So we could write it another way of 600, being if 600 pixel was the desired, divided by 960 gives us 0.625. All right. Just like, in grade school, you're converting the decimals into percentages. You move the decimal place 2 spots, right? That gives you the 62.5%. This is the standard way to do it. It's very basic math, okay? All right, so you can set the relative max width as well on any page. And you could set using EMs. Remember, what was the benefit of using an EM? Gives you that flexibility, right? So if the standard distance between characters is 16 pixels, meaning the standard width of a character font, right, is 16. So I'm going to divide 960 by 16, and that's going to give me 60 EM. And so I can use that as my page width as well. All right, we'll go on. So now we look at media queries. All right, media queries are the fun stuff, because now you can have whole sets of CSS defined around different media queries. You can say that one set is going to be for my print, one set's going to be for my screen, or it could be one set is screen, but it's going to be bound by certain dimensions. All right, so let's take a look at these a little bit more. The following, these are the list of media features that you can use. Okay, so you can use width, height, device width, device height, the orientation. So you're holding a phone, right? and then you decide that you want to turn it sideways so you can get a read better piece of text. It now scales the orientation for you, the aspect ratio, device aspect ratio, your color index, monochrome, resolution, scan grid, all of those, right? Okay, so we have here on this page, this HTML, we have in the head tags, we have the media telling us that we're going to use a UTF-8. We have the title, we have the meta name, and then we have this link. And the link is telling us that our style sheet is going to use a base CSS, right? And what does it say for the media? It says all, whether it is print, whether it's screen, no matter what. Every device, everything's going to use the base. And then you come down to a second style sheet it's importing, and it uses this funky syntax. All right, so what do you think this is telling us? Exactly, exactly. Um, I have a monitor at home. It's 32, I think, but it's a wide monitor. It's about like that wide. It's that tall, massive. And you know why I use it? Because I'm blind. Okay, and I have it set right here because um, my optometrist told me that I need to follow the 20-20-20 rule. All right, I'm getting off topic, okay? But the 20-20-20 rule is every 20 minutes, you get up and stare at something 20 feet away for 20 seconds because your eyes, they get adjusted to the size of pixels on the screen, and then it causes your glasses every year. You have to go back and get new glasses because your muscles in your eyes. All right. I have this huge monitor. I went down a rabbit trail, okay? I have this huge monitor, but sometimes I like to see multiple things opened on my page. And so I'll have in one side of the page, I'll have like I'll have a terminal window, and another side I'll have another browser window, and then down here I'll have another browser window. And you know what's nice about these browser windows when I have them open is I can squish the web page and the content squishes for me. So that means that it doesn't matter if that 480 pixels is on a phone or if I'm just squishing my web pages so I could see multiple things at once without having to tab back and forth. So that's the real benefit, right? So what this is telling us is that the standard page is going to be using the base no matter what. But if perchance I squish my web browser down to 480 pixels, it's going to automatically load this other style sheet, make it available, right? So a couple things about it. This person has named their style something memorable. What do they name it? Yeah, they named it something they could remember, and that's important for you because when you name your style sheets, you want to be able to know, well, what did I call this again? Does anyone have a toolbox? Maybe, no. Okay. My garage or my little office is also my garage and my workshop. It is a mess, and I sometimes I forget where I've put things in different boxes. This is a way of labeling things so I can know what's in a file without having to mess around with it. All right. So media, the first attribute, this is your logic attribute, and it says only. So it could say instead of only, it could say not. And so in this sense, it would say not screen and this feature and value, and that would tell us don't do this if the screen is 480 pixels. Let's go to the next one. So we have in the media, let's see, we have outside the style sheet doing this, and we have inside the style sheet. The what's inside the media attribute here, inside these quotes, you can also put inside your style sheet. if you just want to have one massive style sheet. Now, it's your preference, but if you have, my software development teachers told me, make your class, make your your file do one thing and one thing only. They call it separation of concerns. Let it only be concerned with one thing. And so if I'm only going to be concerned with one thing, I want to make it easy to remember what that one thing does. And I can allow my HTML then to include the right style sheet based on the name. Or you can put it in all in one style sheet. Either way, you have the media, you have the logic, you have the type, and then the feature and value set. All right. So the logic could be only or not. So I could say up here media only, and the type is screen or print. And I could say only print, and the feature could be min width, orientation, max width, resolution. There's a bunch of them. And then I apply the value. Okay. Any questions so far with that? This gives you the ability. This is groundbreaking for CSS. Before they never had this, and you just had to do, just hope that everyone was using the same device to view your pages. All right. Other examples. So here we have the link style sheet. We say the media is only, the type is screen, and then the feature is this. And then we have a second feature. All right, someone tell me what that means. Interpret it for me. This is the way you learn it. You just got to practice it. So tell me what it means. Yes. And it only applies to screen, right? Okay. So what about this one? This next one? Right. And this one? Exactly. Only when you're going to print in color, and then print in, and then down here, you have a type of projection, right? The other thing you want to notice here is when you have two types, you notice what I'm pointing at right there on the screen? The comma. That comma is important when you have two types, okay? You always make sure you comma delimit it. Okay, let's look at some other examples. This is in a CSS file. Same process again, at media, inside your CSS file. It only applies to screen with a min width of, right, and then everything else in between these two whoops, let me go back. Everything else between these two curly brackets, this is where you put your general CSS rules, like font face is Tahoma, font size, whatever, right? All of that is inside those curly brackets. Okay. Any questions so far? All right. Okay, so to build your responsive web page, you're going to create the page, the content, and your HTML. And then in your head element of your HTML page, you're going to type meta name viewport content. This is important, okay? Or meta name viewport content and its scale 1. And then you're going to apply your baseline styles for all your devices. Some folks, they recommend taking a mobile first approach, developing your page to work for mobile, and then developing it to work um, for other sites. Okay. And then again, make sure that you take a look at your images. The rule that I told you earlier concerning the width and the height attributes, those also apply to other HTML tag items like the div, the um, P tags, all of those. It applies to all of those. Make sure that you don't have height and width attributes specified physically on the tag, that you put all of those inside your CSS. Otherwise, your media queries, they won't override it. You'll be scratching your head going, why isn't it working? And then you go back and you look on the page and you see those height and width. Okay. Next part is you identify the breakpoints that are appropriate for your content. So you're going to create media queries that adapt to where the content should be, how it should be displayed. If you need to assign widths to parts of your page, make sure you're using percentages, not static pixel dimensions. If you are working with older browsers, then there are some specialized comment rules that you have to use. Have you guys played around with the comment rules yet? Luckily, we live in a day and age where most of us are not using Internet 8 and 9 anymore. We're using Edge, and I believe Edge is now using the Chromium engine, which is kind of odd for Microsoft to break like that. Okay, web fonts. Back 22 years ago, when my wife and I were on island, my wife decided she wanted to open a company and sell stamps. Not like the ones you put on paper, but the ones that you take and you stamp on the cards and you make all kinds of pretty cards and things, right? Has anyone ever bought stamps for like making cards and all that? So we started doing that, and she had this idea that she wanted to make hand stamped baby apparel. And so we came up with this name called Babies in Paradise. I'm going to tell you, make sure you never name a site something like that, because I'm not even going to go into what happened. All right, but long story short, we were limited by the design of the fonts back then. And so what we did was we would take these different paint programs and meticulously go pixel by pixel by pixel and adding all these different colors to get our own custom font layout for the logo of our site. Oh, it was tedious. And then we would take that and throw it up on our web page, and it was horrible. Well, about 3 years after we did our first website, we found out that you could actually include on the page the true type font set. Meaning I could go out and buy a font and include it in my web page, the reference to it, and I could use that font, something that no one else had, and then they could load on their page and get this new font for this, and then their text readers worked. But you know what happened? It took forever because we had dial-up. Anyone ever watch The Matrix? You've heard that, all those sounds. I had hit a couple of websites and it would just freeze. The page would never load because someone decided, oh, I'm going to go buy this font and put it on the page. And their font was like a megabyte. And back when I had 14K baud dial up, oh, it was horrible. All right. Fast forward now, 20 years later, we all have broadband, right? And it's awesome. You can watch Netflix and stream movies and listen to music and all of that, right? But your true type fonts, you still have to pay attention to. You want to make sure that the fonts you use, they're not too big. right? You don't want to like cram your page full of all of these cool fonts because you want your page to look awesome and unique. You want to think about just using what's necessary. All right, so there's four different types you can use now. You can use embedded open type, which is the EOT extension. The true type, which everyone should be familiar with. Those are the ones that are on your built into Windows and Mac. Then you have the web font, which is the WAF, or you could use scalable vector graphics, and don't use those, even though you can. Don't use those. And the primary reason is that they don't. Um, you have to do a lot of work to get screen readers to work right with scalable vector graphics fonts. Okay. All right. The other big issue, legal issues. Um, I'll tell you a story. Back probably about 5 years ago, I was working on a website for a church down in Key West, Florida. And I set up the website for them, and then I went out and I Googled free images. And I found this image of this little baby, and I took it and I put it on the website because it was for their nursery in their church. And I thought, oh, everything's great. I get a letter in the mail about 2 months later from this lawyer who represents Getty Images and says you're being fined $6,000 for image infringement using an image that you should not be using. And I was like, whoa, hang on. I don't even get paid. I just did this website for free and I had to send them all this documentation. Why am I telling you that? Legal issues. You can get sued over using web fonts that you don't have permission to use. And you can get sued over images that you think, oh, these are great. I'm just going to snack this image and throw it on my. I'm telling you, if they sue you, it's big time trouble. What's that? Oh, you're not. You're probably going to take your website down right after this, right? Right? Yeah. Hopefully. However, if you actually do that, you go to use images off the web. Make sure you buy. They'll give you a license code, and then if you ever get hit, the company will say, okay, please present your license code, and you just handle it all internally. All right. So legal issues. There are fonts available to use, but you need to pay attention to the legal parameters around it. Just don't go out there and grab any image you want or any font you want and throw it on your website. Make sure you go through legal channels to do this stuff. Long story short, I ended up having to send the church's 501c nonprofit letter and the fact that I was doing it for free, and then their billing history that they never billed me, that I was doing it for free, and then to immediately pull the image down off the website before I could get away from not being charged $6,000 for and legal fees. And then they dropped the whole thing. Okay, so purchase your fonts. Um, there are a number of tools that you can use out there for converting a font into a web font. And there's a great free tool called fontsquirrel.com. I love the names that we IT folks give things. Yeah. Anyways, go to the site and they can convert your font. If you legally purchased it, they can convert it into a web font for you. All right. Other things you want to consider that Font Squirrel does for you is subsetting. Subsetting means uh, that you only use the characters that you need on your page. And the reason that's important is you're thinking about the load time of your page. So if your page is going to take 20 seconds to load, guess what? Your potential customer, is going to go, never mind, I'll go somewhere else. Has that ever happened to you? The page takes too long to load, and you're like, I don't have time for this. You go back and search for something again. So you want to consider about the load times, how fast things load on your page. So what subsetting does is you go out, you buy your font, you take it out to Font Squirrel, and you say, okay, I only need the letters whatever the name of your website is, right? Because you're using just that font, just the letters that are in the name of your website, or whatever the page, or whatever the logo, or you guys get the idea. And what Font Squirrel will do is they'll trim down that web font and give you a file that only has the characters that you need. That's 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 prudent. It's smart. And then if you ever want to use more characters, you go back out to them again, you recompile it, they send you a new file. Okay, so let's talk about using them. Web fonts are a little bit more tricky to use. However, it gives you some really cool things to do. It make your website stand out. The first thing you have to do is you have to use the @font face. And then you're going to specify the font family. And you're going to put it in single quotes. You could call it PT Sans Regular, or I'm Crazy, or whatever, right? You could call whatever the font family you want to make it to be known as. And then you're going to specify the source URL for how to access that font. So if you go out to Squirrel Fonts, you can buy fonts there. You can find free fonts. You download them to your computer. You put them in a file, preferably under your CSS, and call it fonts, and put the file of your fonts in there. And if you're really organized, then you're going to go ahead and put the name, create another subdirectory. Am I confusing you all with this? So in your CSS, and then inside your CSS, create a thing called fonts. And then inside of that, create another folder called the name of your fonts, and then dump all of the fonts that they give you. This could be a web font, this could be a EOT font, all of those, and put them in that folder. All right. So then in your source, you're going to say the URL and then the path to that font. Remember, path is everything. Then you have some other things here like the format, embedded, open type. The format is WAF. The format is true type. And again, make sure you pay attention to things like your commas. So here we have source, colon, URL, parenthesis. And then after that, we have format, parenthesis. And then at the end, we have comma because we're doing it again. All right. Then you come down to font weight is normal. Your font style is normal. And you go on to adding your next font. This is the basic way that you do it. All right. How you are able to load special fonts, web fonts, into your CSS. So if I want to reference that font elsewhere in my file, notice here I have my body tag, I have font family, and I'm referencing something in single quotes because this is the font family that I've specified internally. PT Sans is in single quotes, and then I put comma sans serif after it. That's optional. But you'll notice right below this body tag is my @font face. And notice that the font family here is the name I've specified. So down here is really my descriptor. Inside my @font face is the descriptor that tells how that font is going to be referenced and 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 recognized. And then I use that font family name here elsewhere to reference it. Okay? Any questions about that? Anyone confused about it? Now, let me go back. Let's see. Where am I? There we go. Let me go back. Can anyone tell me something about this layout here that stands out to you? Got to look carefully. And it may come out and go, wow, that's kind of redundant. Why are we putting that in this font face descriptor? What stands out as redundant to you? What's that? I couldn't hear you. I have the headset on. Just look at it for a second. What stands out possibly as redundant to you? Source? Well, okay. So again, the second line is talking about an IE fix, right? Internet Explorer issue. That's a good catch, though. Good catch. There you go. Font weight and style. If I want to specify the use of italics, I have to create separate at font faces for whether I want to use an italic or a bold for my font. This is the one kind of strange thing about web fonts. So when I'm styling a web font, you'll notice here that I have PT Sans. I have to declare it twice, right? Everything is identical all the way down till I get down here. So if I want to have a normal font face, I have to have it declared normal. If I want to have an italic, I have to have a second one declared as italic. And if I want to make available the bold, I got to declare it again. Okay, does that make sense? It's kind of a quirk. It's like, well, how come, if the font I'm downloading already has those specified fonts in them, why do I have to specify it? It's just the way it is. Okay, but this is a gotcha that you'll have to pay attention to. Okay, so yeah, that's just exactly the same. All right, so using web fonts. Let's talk about Google Fonts. Google Fonts allows you to actually use directly from their site. So you can use an actual um, link to their site to use their Google font, which is very, very nice. And the way that works is you see that this is just a CSS file, right? The CSS file that you're importing from their site has the Google fonts specified in it. And so that saves you some extra time. However, keep in mind that now you've increased the amount of traffic where you got to download things from across the internet. And that is it. Okay, any questions so far? Okay, we covered a lot there. Let's go ahead and pull up our assignment for today. And before I do that, I want to check back in and make sure we have everyone signed in. Christian, did you not sign in? It wouldn't let you? Okay, I got you. All right, and that's everyone, right? Okay. Okay, a little housekeeping before we go too far here. I was reviewing the attempts on midterm, and there was a number of you who did not do your midterm last week. I have extended it again till this Sunday. Cannot give you full credit if you didn't take it yet, but I want you to take it. Okay. Some of you already emailed me and said, Mr. Rogers, I didn't take it. Can you please let me take it? Yes, you can take it. Again, I can't give you full credit because you're taking it late, but I want take the opportunity and do it. Okay. Don't don't procrastinate because this is your grade. You're paying for this class and you want to get the most out of it. Okay. All right. Okay. Has anyone attempted the homework assignment yet? What's that? You did one of them? Okay. Well, let's go ahead and start with the first one. Yes. You only had 2 attempts on it. Did you only take it one time? Oh, I think it still only lets you if you've already done two. This it's two is the max. Yeah. Man, I I would be scared to take it twice if you're after the date because now I have to give everyone a lower grade if they take it past the due date. So okay, okay. Um, so here we have what we have to do is basically adjust the size of this page, right? So we're going to modify the HW Chapter 12 CSS in the CSS folder, and the HW Chapter 12 HTML should look like the following. Okay, so was there only an index in this? Yeah, no, I'm looking at HW12 HTML. That's what I was looking for. Okay, it's all right. Okay, so here is our page layout, and then we are going to okay. All right, so based on the document, maximum width of the browser is 960 pickles pixels, and the minimum width. I'm glad you all could laugh. You don't think pickles is in there anywhere? The maximum width of the browser is 960. The minimum width, the wrapper ID is that. The media is only for the screen maximum width. Okay. All right. All right. So this is the layout, right? Okay. What do y'all think we need to do? Anyone want to take a stab at it? Okay. So the wrapper ID is this piece up here, and we're going to apply What are we applying? Going to apply the min width, right? All right. So it should be what though? 960 versus what? So the minimum width of the wrapper ID should be 960 pixels, right? So um, I think in this one we're just doing, this one we're just doing pixel width, aren't we? The minimum width, the maximum width. So number one, the maximum width of the browser is 960 pixels, right? So where are we going to specify that at? You guys have an idea? Right. Is that what it specifies though in the Word doc? Yeah. And the media is screen. I think I may have added the wrong thing in here, didn't I? So I added this. I don't think I was supposed to add that. Maximum width value, right? And we're saying the maximum width is 960 pixels. There we go. And then the maximum, now that was minimum width, wasn't it? Of the wrapper. So minimum width of the browser is browser in here? No. Desktop was at the bottom. What does it say? Let's look at this document again. I'm going to go back to the web page real quick to so I hate it when it does that. Index file should display 3 different layouts. Do not modify the HTML, compress all of the zip. Okay. All right. Okay. So we need to have a base, right? Our base CSS at the top of the page should specify something about maximum pixels. Am I looking at that wrong? All right. We have specified. What's that? The maximum width value goes here, but it does, doesn't it? Yeah, I think you're right. That's confusing. But that makes more sense to do that because that gives you. Okay. Well, we need to go by what the Word document says. All right, so when the media is only for screen and the maximum width of the browser is 768 pixels. Okay, so was it media? And then what was our syntax? Media only, screen, and then the maximum width is 768 pixels. I got two. There you go. All right, so when the media is only screen, maximum width 768 pixels, we should have the following. Right? That should go in there. So it's not sizing, is it? All right, let's go back and look at what else are we listing. It can also contain rules for the nav element should not be floated. So the nav element should not be floated. The width should be auto and the padding is 0. The LI elements within the nav element should have an inline value for display. So okay. Does that look copacetic to you all? So we've added the media only screen, max width 760 pixels. We've added this information. We've added the nav float none width auto padding 0, and the nav LI we added display inline. I am recording it so you can, yeah. Okay, did I miss anything, guys? What do you think? Look, okay. Let's go to the next one. Next one says when media only screen maximum width is 480 pixels. Okay, so media only screen max width 480 pixels, right? And I'll be honest, I can't remember. Do I need a semicolon here? Do y'all know? I don't. Let me go look at my notes. No, I don't need a semicolon. Okay. All right. And we need this information here. Okay. What else do we need to do? Media queries should contain also the following rules. Nav element should not be floated. Same as above. Padding auto 0. All right. So that's the same. What else? Li element within the nav should have a block value for display. So display block, and the bottom of the border should be 2 pixels thickness. Let's see, display 1. Border bottom, what is it? 2 pix solid, and the color is okay. All right, so save that. Go back over here. We're going to do a little testing. Oh, it's not working, is it? What are we missing? What do you think we're missing, guys? All right, let's keep going. Discuss the effect result when you write the code for step 3. Do we need another rule? Is that what we need? Okay. When the maximum width of the browsers, I think that's the one that's throwing me off right now. I'm gonna just comment you out for a second. Okay. Sizing now a little bit, isn't it? What is it? Yes. Hey, dude. There we go. Look at that. Isn't that awesome? Thank you. Okay. So that's working somewhat, right? Okay. So this last one, what are we missing with the last one? Why is it not? It should look like this one, right? Home yurts. So if we, it's not stacking, is it? All right. Did anyone get it to stack yet? You know what I'm talking about? These elements here will stack over on top. So screen width and it's not stacking. The nav element should not be floated. Is yours stacking? How'd you do it? Share the wealth, man. You have no idea. Yeah. Did I do something right here? It's 2px solid. Okay. I think, no. Um, that's the correct syntax there. I'm just wondering, nav li display block. What did you do for your float? Did you put it on the nav? Or did you put it under UL or LI? Okay. Width is auto padding is 0. Display block. What are we missing? All right. It's usually like the smallest character you forget. Ugh! All right, what'd you do to figure it out? All right. All right. Maximum width. I think this is the thing I'm missing. Did you set a maximum width for your browser? Where did you set it at? You did that here. I'm wondering if that's the, no, that's not it. So, so the first media is when we are at 760 pixels. We do this. Second one, nav element should not be floated. Auto padding 0. What browser are you using? Using Chrome? Okay. If you notice here, these bottom black lines, those are supposed to be the borders, the bottom border. And so, yeah, CSS. 5px solid red. Border, bottom, 2px solid. So you have to, number 4 is you have to write your thoughts in the Word document. Okay. Yeah, don't forget that, guys. Yep. Yep. Border bottom should be 2 pixels, thickness, solid line. All right. So this goes to show you even your instructor gets stumped. Okay. We're about 5 minutes to the end of class. So the next one is your web fonts. That should be a little easier to navigate. Yeah. But basically, you're going to download the font. You're going to reference it. Let's actually pull up the document real quick and make sure I'm telling you the right thing. Real quick, again on homework 10, make sure you comment in the Word document and submit the Word document when you zip it up. Okay, you're just supposed to write your thoughts about the differences. No, you don't have to rename it. Just put it back in the zip file. Okay. All right. So let's look at real quick homework 11. Okay. So you're going to unzip the file. And you're going to make it look like the following. Refer to the font face rule on pages 360 and 363 in your textbook. Add the League Gothic Regular and Crimson Roman font faces. And let's see here. Is that already included? Yeah, there they are. They're already included. Okay. So the rules in the font face is also in the PowerPoint that I did today. So I'll post the PowerPoint and the video. Any questions before we close out the class today? Okay. Don't get frustrated. This is all par for the course. I'll give you an example. I've been working for 4 days on a website for Indiana State, but it's actually some programming tasks behind the scenes, and I've been stumped for 4 days. Been working through things iteratively, one step at a time. That's all part of the process. Just get your headphones, listen to music, and just get in the groove and just work through it. Okay. All right. I'm going to kill the video, and if you guys have any other questions, I'll be here after class for a little bit, and